The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Pendle again for the third time. Now in this particular episode we're going to be on a hunt for a witch's grave and also for an old mill. I found the mill already. It's there. That there is Spenbrook Mill, and you'll find that and the witch's grave in the parish of Goldshaw Booth. Goldshaw Booth, Goldshaw Shelter. Hello folks, it's back into Pendle this weekend as we continue our journey around its collection of booths. Today we hit Goldshaw Booth, which covers 3 villages. They are Newchurch in Pendle, Spenbrook and Sabden Fold, and even though all 3 are pretty small, there's a raft of stuff to cover here. First of all, let's get the name of this place out of the way. Once again, we're in a booth that's not named after one of the villages. Instead, Goldshaw is the modern name for Goldshifu, which was a personal female name. Who this person was is open to debate, but her booth has some pretty tasty bits. Newchurch in Pendle is the standout village here. In that village, we'll once again learn some more about the Pendle witches. Indeed, there's even a shop in the place which immortalises their legend. It's called Witches Galore, and above its door, there's a brilliant piece of old Lancashire dialect to see. Newchurch's churchyard is also heavily linked to the witches. Alice Nutter, who we learned about last week, is buried there, and we're on a witch hunt here to find her grave. Spenbrook gives us a bit of variation. There we'll be more concerned with the workings of the former Spenbrook Mill, which still stands even though its milling days are long since over. Sabden Fold is also a pleasant drive, which we'll end this video with. Lying to the north of it all is the huge Pendle Hill, visible from various areas around this parish. So let's put our pointy black hats back on and delve into the legend of the Pendle witches once again. So far we haven't found any, but that is all about to change. There are 3 settlements in Goldshaw Booth. This is Spenbrook, the one which lies closest to Fence, which we covered last time out. Spenbrook wouldn't exist today had it not been for its biggest and most important landmark, a massive mill. Spenbrook Mill was built between 1854 and 1879 as a steam-powered cotton weaving mill. It expanded considerably during the 20th century and was last occupied by William Pownall & Sons Limited, who were carpet manufacturers. Terraced housing was built around the mill during the late 19th century to accommodate its workers, accounting for the first dwellings in Spenbrook village. Before the 1850s, the Spenbrook area was rural farmland with scattered farmsteads. The mill was built on a flat site next to the Spenbrook, a minor waterway which flows through the area. It was the work of the Newchurch Building Company, a group of local businessmen, and it was made from stone that had been quarried nearby. In its cotton spinning heyday, the mill had up to 300 looms. When weaving ceased, it focused its attention on carpets instead, and they were manufactured here until the early 2000s. Since then, the mill has closed completely, and both it and its grounds have been redeveloped into a gated community of houses. Spenbrook is, in essence, an easy little place to understand. A mill was built, its workers needed housing, it grew, it declined, it's now a brand new housing estate. If only every village was that simple, eh? Let's head up to Newchurch now, which is a bit more complicated. I tell you folks, when you drive into Goldshaw Booth using the road I just have from Fence, that view you get over Spenbrook and up into the hills beyond as the road dips down, that's the best thing I've seen all day so far. I don't think anything's going to top that, to be honest with you. Now, before we go any further and walk on into Newchurch, because it's only a quarter of a mile away, we've got a parish notice board, and this one is a pin board. Haha, I like these, because it means that I have to use my blue tack to put the cards on it. And there we go. That is Goldshaw Booth in the books. Newchurch, or Newchurch in Pendle as it's more officially known, can be split into two distinct areas. In the north, there's the church, a shop and a school, along with some other bits and bobs. In the south, there's a small cluster of housing and a water treatment works. We're going to start in the south and work our way uphill to the north, and then come back via a footpath that links the churchyard to the waterworks. Although this southern section is the less interesting part, that doesn't mean the views are to be sniffed at. Remember, we are in an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's going to be good, no matter which way you look. Newchurch was originally known as Goldshaw Booth and later Newchurch in Pendle Forest, which was later contracted to its present form. It was formerly part of Roughly Booth until its transferal in 1935. St Mary's C of E Primary School in Newchurch opened in 1876. The school's foundation stone was laid in 1874. The first 63 pupils were taught in 4 classes, and lessons included reading, writing, arithmetic and religious instruction. On Fridays, all classes sang for a quarter of an hour. Because of its very rural location, some of the things it did in the early 20th century were a little unusual. For example, in 1903, the caretaker brewed tea or cocoa for pupils who lived too far away to go home for dinner. In 1910, the headmaster introduced gardening into the school curriculum. I guess that was a big thing out here. These days, the school is attended by around 50 pupils from the village and surrounding areas. It remains an important part of Pendle's heritage and community. Let me tell you something, folks. Walking from Spenbrook up into Newchurch in Pendle is not for the faint of heart. It's a very steep hill. I'm almost at the top of it. It might only be a quarter of a mile, maybe half a mile. I'll tell you what, it's definitely difficult. We're nearly there though. We're at a junction here, and that road that goes off to the left there goes to Sabden Fold. And Sabden Fold is another hamlet that's within Goldshaw Booth. But we've got the rest of Newchurch to look at first, and up here there's a shop which I think you guys are going to recognise. Now, Newchurch is famous for the Demdike family of Pendle witches who lived here in the 17th century. Because of that fact, Newchurch was at the centre of the Pendle witch trials. The Demdikes were one of the 2 main families associated with witchcraft. The other was the Chattoxes. Both were large, destitute families. In tomorrow's episode, we'll be in the place where the Chattoxes lived. Here in Newchurch, the Demdikes were led by Elizabeth Southerns and traded on a local reputation for black magic. Speaking of trade, the witches might be long gone now, but there is still a shop in Newchurch whose very name acts as a reminder of the Pendle witch trials. This is Witches Galore. It's a gift shop complete with pointed witches' hats and chins with warts, and it stocks all kinds of devilish merchandise from gruesome model Pendle witches, posters and pottery, to terrifying treats like t-shirts and gargoyles. You know, the stuff witches like generally. By extension, this shop gives us a cracking bit of old Lancashire dialect to discuss. Above the door is a big stone with the words "Gerrit spent, they don't put pockets in shrouds" written on it. That's an old saying which many Lancashire folk will know. It means get it spent, they don't put pockets in shrouds. Effectively, what it means is that money can't be taken with you when you die, so spend it while you're still here. A shroud, of course, is the garment used by an undertaker to cover a deceased body, and they don't have pockets for money, now do they? This is a great little village, I have to tell you. It's really cool to find a shop like that somewhere in this, well, it's basically just a maze of hills, isn't it? That's basically all that Pendle is. It's fantastic. I can't get enough of it. It's just so cute and so quaint and so, I don't know how to describe it, just perfect, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. We're going to go to the church now, which puts the word church in Newchurch. We're going to head down a footpath down here, take us to the church, and it will take us towards what is supposedly the grave of a witch. St Mary's Church can be found in the centre of the village. It's not easily visible from the road as it lies on the downward side of a steep hill with a row of houses at the top and the primary school to the side. There was a chapel of ease on this site in 1250 and a later chapel was dedicated in 1544. The tower, although restored, is the only remaining part of that early building. The current church was probably built in the 17th century and it was only completed in 1740. One of its best known features is its Eye of God built into the western side of the tower. Such things acted as a deterrent from evil spirits. The ancient ceremony of rush bearing is performed at St Mary's. It involves a procession which is led around the village and at the end of it a new rush bearing queen is crowned. This is followed by a service of thanksgiving in the church itself. Okay, so the church here in Newchurch is open from 10 until 4 every day, and it's within those hours right now. So here we are inside the building. Let's have a little look around. I've not yet found the grave. I'm not quite sure whereabouts it is. So hopefully we will find it at some point. Let's have a look at the other things on the wall here with a couple of tablets. This one here is for William Lund, clerk and sexton for 20 years, 1902 to 1922, good and faithful servant of the church. Above that we've got a tablet in memory of William Robert Riding Crinham, medical student at Owens College. Interesting. Some nice stained glass either side of these, quite like that. And then a little bit further along we've got a tablet for Elizabeth Smith and her dad, Thomas Smith. The one above is for Anne Robinson. Not the Anne Robinson you're thinking of, I'm sure. Into the chancel. It's all one. There's a nice gallery here as well, above, as you can see. It's quite nice, isn't it? Not every church has one of those. Let's go down here. Nice piano in the corner. And then at the back here, we've got mention of some of the booths which we've been exploring Obviously we're in Goldshaw right now. We've done roughly an Old Lawn. There's another one called Barley with Whitley, which we haven't yet done, but we will at some point. And there is another one coming tomorrow too, Higham with West Close Booth. So that's the inside of this church. Now let's see if I can find that grave. The grave is to the east of the church's porch. The stone is barely legible, but this does contain, apparently, a member of the Nutter family. Local legend has it that this is the last resting place of Alice Nutter, but there is some doubt over that. Executed witches were not normally buried in consecrated ground, and the skull and crossbones, which you can just about see on this grave, is a common memento mori device used to remind onlookers of their own mortality. These facts are enough to convince most historians that the legend is in fact an urban myth. The Nutter headstone probably dates from 1694, and if it isn't that of Alice, it remains possible that the members of the family inscribed on the stone were her close relatives. Also in the churchyard, by the way, are the war graves of 2 soldiers and a Royal Flying Corps officer who served in World War I. So all that's left to do now is to make our way back to the beginning again, and that means heading along a footpath which links the churchyard to the village's last remaining landmark. All these hills and hollers, all that sort of training I've been doing in the Peak District of late comes in handy when you come to a place like this. There's hills all over the place. I've just had to be very careful walking down that footpath from the church because it's extremely steep. It's basically the mirror image, if you like, of the road that goes up into Newchurch, which we walked up earlier. We're nearly finished anyway, because at this point on the playing field we can see Spenbrook and Spenbrook Mill in the distance over there. There's one last thing to talk about, and it's not exactly the greatest thing in the world. It's a wastewater treatment plant. There's not a lot to say about Newchurch's wastewater treatment works, if I'm totally honest, but it's still a feature of the village nonetheless. There are no witches with bubbling cauldrons left around here these days, so I guess the big circular tanks within this thing are the closest Newchurch gets to modern witchcraft. Our last job in Goldshaw Booth is to head through the hamlet of Sabden Fold towards the parish boundary. Sabden Fold is different from Sabden itself, which is over the boundary. It's believed to derive its name from the Old English Skepa Denu, meaning Spruce Valley. The name occurs as early as 1296 as Sabden. However, this likely refers to Sabden Hall, which is located in Sabden Fold. Sabden Fold was and still is a farming community and had several medieval cattle farms. Fabric printing and cotton weaving also took place in this valley. The de Lacy family owned many of the vaccaries or medieval cattle farms around here. The farms prospered in the 19th century, supplying milk, wool and meat to the nearby towns. The remains of vaccarie walls from the medieval period can still be seen in some areas. Sabden Fold was designated as a conservation area in the year 2000. The conservation area includes both Sabden Fold and Lower Sabden Fold and extends southwards across Sabden Brook to include lower houses. Religiously, it used to have a Baptist church, which opened in 1797. Of course, this should not be confused with Sabden itself, which is a village we have to cover in a later episode. There, industry was much bigger. In the late 1700s, mills were introduced to that place, and by 1806 the textile industry employed nearly 2,000 workers. The water quality in the valley here suited the calico printing industry, which continued there until 1931. So that's it for Pendle Round 3. Now, we've seen one village that's heavily linked to a Pendle witch family. Tomorrow, we're off to find the other one, where the Chattoxes lived. They were in direct competition almost with the Demdikes of Newchurch. Get on your broomsticks, folks, and let's head on there. See you later. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.